Okay, fives, let's talk a little bit about your environment and your worldview. So, in the Enneagram, there are these things called arrows, these lines that point from the 5 to the 8 and 7 in your case. There are these lines that show how you pick up the flavors of the other styles under stress and in relaxed conditions. So typically, a 5 under stressful conditions picks up the shadow side of a 7. Kind of makes sense when you look at it. You could be more distracted, much more excessive than you normally are. It kind of makes sense. You're not a 7 at all. But you can see how you can pick up those particular attributes. And under relaxed conditions, you can see how you could pick up more of the attributes of the high side or the gold of an 8. That you become more energetic, you take more initiative, you step into situations. Now that's where most Enneagram material stops. But if you keep reading, you notice that you pick up the attributes on the other side as well. Under stressful conditions, it is possible to step into that stress. And you on the inside have been renewed. And what happens is you step into that with the high side of a 7. You're a lot more whimsical, have a lot more energy than you would normally expect because of what's going on the inside. And then even under relaxed conditions, let's say with somebody that truly loves you and accepts you and gives you your space, you'll see how you pick up the shadow of the 8, this controlling and argumentative self that you can tend to have when you know you're going to be okay. You don't have to go and huddle, and you could just be yourself. But you know what it shows is on the inside, things are not pretty. What this also shows is that you don't need perfect circumstances and environment. You don't need a full resources or all the knowledge in the world. It's not your external circumstances that dictate how you're really doing all the time. They make a contribution, but not all the time. Let's talk about how you learned this style as a child. Most 5s will say they experience a lot of disruption and turmoil as children. And it's all different variety types, as you would expect. But they learn to retreat into their inner world. And especially when they're feeling anxious or unsafe, and they just would retreat into books or into their room or with their toys, and they would think things through and create imaginations and learn new things. And they found a lot of contentment in that inner world, which allows them to be really good thinkers. It also means that you kind of have to have this personal huddle that happens again and again, where you have to retreat, think things through in order for you to feel competent to be able to speak up or show up into a circumstance or an environment. But really what you see here is a worldview that is like this. There's something in you as a child, if you're like most 5s, that said, I must be wise to be secure. Now, you probably don't think of yourself as a fearful person. Most 5s don't. But are you sure about that? Are you sure that security is not a bigger deal? If you think about your childhood, it makes sense why you needed to retreat in the first place. So I would challenge you to think about that. I also challenge you to think about this question. How do you handle incompetence? Well, with other people, like after a while, you could just not say anything, but you really think they don't have their stuff together. They don't know what they're talking about, right? That's how I handle incompetence. There's a little bit of self-righteousness with it, if you really think about it, right? How do you handle incompetence in yourself, though? It's almost unacceptable. You've got to know your stuff. So what happens is when you retreat to your computer, to your books, to your room, to whatever it may be, what you'll notice is when you're feeling incompetent, you're getting really, really drained. Also, a lot of times you're out in social situations where you'll get drained all the more, just again and again and again. It's like you're running on low batteries. And after a while you start thinking there's scarcity of resources out there. There's a scarcity, and I've got to hold in my thoughts. I've got to hold in my energy. I've got to hold it in because I've got to meter it out for me to make it through the day so I can stay competent. This is a lot of pressure for somebody to deal with. It's a lot for somebody to deal with. And we're going to keep talking about how this is uprooted and who, of course, you know where I'm going, specifically uproot this. So we'll talk about that in a second.